In today's video, we are going to completely be knocking down this rear end. We have some metal, we have some fiberglass, and a lot of body filler to take off. We are gonna be taking off a big chunk right in the middle here to flatten that out a little bit. But first, we're gonna be completely knocking down this wing. This wing is the biggest fault in this rear end in the whole design. It looks good, I guess, and it flows with the body. We made sure that we tried to go from this flat area here and flow it into the body line here, and it would have looked really good and kind of cool, and it would have worked, but it's really not super authentic the way that this wing goes here, and it's a little too tilted back for how a lot of the ones that I like are. A lot of you guys commented on how big this thing is, and yes, it's massive by normal standards. However, by Bozo standards, this is very medium. Some of them are a little bit smaller, and some of them are absolutely massive and could be, you know, 6-8 feet tall, whatever. They do all kinds of crazy things over there, so there's not really anything that's really too big or too small on this thing. It's really kind of depending on your perspective. But I do want to take down this rear end and redo it. For the most part, we are going to be completely removing this wing, and that is going to be the first step, and then from there we will figure out what we're going to do with this rear end. We're still going to be keeping it flat. We're just going to make it a little bit more flat this way, so that way our taillights will mount in there nicely. This curve is just a little too drastic, and we built this out because we wanted it to look nice with the wing. Because the wing is going out so far back, we had to kind of make this nice curve, and it looks kind of cool, and it's a very interesting design, but it's really just not authentic to how they would do it over there, so we are going to be redoing it. I'm sure a lot of you guys are interested to see how strong this thing is, as am I. This trunk portion here is all welded up and metal. This really is not going anywhere without a absolute ton of force. As for these sides, a lot of you guys back in the day were commenting on how weak they are, or they're just gonna break off or whatever, but you saw that I standed on the edge. I stood all my weight right here. I have a picture on my Instagram, and in one of the videos I stood up on this, all my weight on here, and that's overhanging too. So we know it's really strong, but we're gonna see how it holds up to a hammer and see if we can try and knock a big portion of these sides off first, and then we're gonna take some grinders and these flat discs and start taking away all the body filler and taking away this entire wing, seeing where we're at, and we are gonna have to grind this down to where the sheet metal is here, grind down those welds, and pop that entirely off. This side I know for a fact has a little bit less fiberglass. I think we only ever did the sides, or maybe only ever one side. So this side is a little bit weaker than the other one. But I'm gonna go ahead and just go at it with the biggest hammer we have in the shop. So crazy to see all the layers. As you can see, we have this rear end completely torn down and a lot further than we thought we were going to take it. Initially, I thought I was just going to try and cut out this section right in the middle where it bumped out too much. But as we started taking that away, we realized that we really should just start, completely taking everything away, just because I started seeing a lot more faults, and I was scared that it wasn't going to be as good as it could have been. And the more I got into it, just basically the more we started taking it away, because I realized how much easier it would be if I were to just completely redo it rather than trying to mate it up with what we already had. And what we already had that was still there was still really bad. I know I'm going to get a few questions, and I know for one, it's going to be how much all this stuff weighed. So I did go ahead and bring a bathroom scale. So we're going to weigh everything that I have in the bags and the metal piece here. That was the top piece of the wing. We're going to weigh that stuff. One thing to keep in mind is that there was an immense amount of dust that was taken away, and there's obviously other factors. So it probably weighs a little bit more than what we do weigh, but probably not by much. Besides this piece here, which is all metal, we have a pretty thick piece of metal here. We have the square pieces of tubing in here, and then the sheet metal on either side. This is by far the heaviest piece, and the second heaviest piece is this piece here. And I'm going to be keeping this piece to basically show how absolutely horrible this thing was. This is about an inch of Bondo right here, and that's because there was a certain section right here where there's a little bit of a indentation that we just continued to fill with Bondo, and I know it's not the right way to do it, and I don't want to justify this work at all. I know it's horrific and it's awful. However, as you saw, when I was first taking the hammer to this bumper, until I started taking huge chunks away, it was pretty resilient to the hammer hits, and it really wasn't going anywhere. So for all the people saying that one pothole or whatever it's going to crack off, that's absolutely not going to happen. It would take a pretty big impact for any of this stuff to crack off, except over time, obviously the stuff would deteriorate. But other than that, I think it would have been okay. It's just really not the best way to do it, and it's not how we're going to do this rear end, after we redo it. And then also, if you recall, I did stand on the wing ends, which were actually even easier to break off than the bumper itself. The bumper itself is actually held on really well. I'm surprised how well the fiberglass held on to the foam, and then the foam was held onto the car. And that's for a couple of reasons. The foam would come into the car and would expand around into these places here, and it would actually latch on from the back. And then I had the fiberglass here. We only had one layer of fiberglass, which was definitely not optimal. But from there, we had the fiberglass, and that really was stuck on there pretty good. I had to try and rip it off. And then all the Bondo. There were some places where there wasn't nearly as much Bondo as that one. That's really just the worst, but I wanted to keep that just so that, we can kind of see where I came from. Not that I'm a professional now, but that we can kind of see where I came from and the finished product of this thing, and see how good it's going to look in the end, which I'm sure you guys will be surprised. Moving on. Let's go ahead and try and weigh this stuff. I have these bags here. This is filled with all of the stuff that came from this thing. So we're going to weigh those bags, and then we're going to try and weigh that wing there, and then we'll all add it up. Let's do this thing first, because this is the heaviest piece. That's 18.8 pounds. And this piece has the least amount of Bondo on it. It's just metal and heavy. So 18.8. All right, whatever. Let's say 6 pounds. I don't even know if this is going to be able to carry all this. I'm going to try and just hold it all up. Let's see what that says. 13.8 pounds. 9.4-ish. 23.6. So we just added all that up, and it's about 70 pounds total, which is about 20 pounds more than I thought it was going to be. And that is an immense amount of weight to be putting on the back here just for this. We are going to be putting on probably quite a bit of weight, but not nearly that much. Even if we did decide to keep that on there, I'm really not that concerned. For those saying that I'm gonna have to 1J, 2J, whatever, V8 swap this thing to be able to carry this weight, that's ridiculous. I hope you're really happy with this. I think I'm a lot happier with the direction that I'm gonna be taking this. I think that the rear end, just visually, for me, being able to see everything come together, I think it's gonna look so much better. It's gonna look so much more authentic. And I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy to be able to see these body lines here again, and just everything's gonna be so much sleeker, slimmer, and it's gonna weigh a lot less than it did. Also, I almost forgot, a lot of you guys were talking about, I hope to see all the spoons and forks and all the stuff that I put in the foam to be able to build the foam off of the foam. If you watch the old videos, you'll know what I'm talking about. I found the remnants of one fork. That's it. And that's because whenever we were shaving it with the saw, a lot of them were broken and or pulled out. And even at that, we pulled out a lot of them. I thought I was gonna see a bunch of spoons and a bunch of forks. We didn't actually use spoons, but the plastic forks and all of the toothpicks and everything, I thought I was gonna find a ton. We found the remnants of one. And that's why I didn't bring it up earlier in this video, is because I completely forgot about it, because I didn't even see one really. Anyways guys, that's gonna be it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and peace out.